Hello, welcome to the Sunday Gardener, and we're going to look at what to do in the garden in June. Here we are in the greenhouse, and as you can see it is absolutely full of different types of plants. Tomato plants, pelargoniums, bedding plants, lettuces, zinnias grown from seed, cucumber, lots and lots of plants. And the thing about June is it's time to plant everything out. It's planting time because the risk of frost has now passed, so it means that tender plants, which are the bedding plants, and some of the tender veg like squashes and tomatoes, can be planted outside if you're growing outside. So amongst other things, we're going to be looking at how to get the best from your bedding plants and looking after bedding plants, tomato care, because lots of people are growing tomatoes this year, looking at potting on and side shoots. We're going to take a look at deadheading, which is really important to prolong flowering in your garden over the summer season. And we're going to look at the vegetable plot and how to plant out different types of veg into the vegetable plot, and lots of other things as well. Well, let's start with bedding plants because they're always really popular, and everyone would be planting out their bedding plants now into hanging baskets and borders. You want to get the best from your bedding plants, and they do tend to get a bit leggy, particularly later on in the season. So one of the things you can do at this early point when they're still quite small is to pinch them out. Whenever you pinch out a plant, it makes it bush. So here is a little petunia. I don't really want it to flower yet. It's got some little flower buds on it because it's in the greenhouse and I'm not ready for planting out quite yet. So I'm going to pinch out those growing points at the very top, and that will make the plant become more bushy. The same thing here with this verbena. I'm going to take out and nip out the top points, and in fact if you look closely there you can see it's been cut, and that's an old cut. That's a cut that's been done in the garden centre by the grower for exactly that reason, to make it a more bushier plant. So with your bedding plants you can pinch out the tops of them. Here's a tray of petunias, and pinch out the tops and they will become more bushy, and you'll try and avoid, they always go leggy at the end of the season, but you can delay it by pinching out the growing points and making the plant bushier. The other thing about bedding plants is, of course, slugs. Slugs love bedding plants as much as we do, so you need to think about it when you're putting out your bedding plants. Fortunately, it's been very, very dry, and that's helped to keep the slug population at bay, but they will be slithering out sooner or later. So put down some form of slug deterrent, and remember that if you have a really badly eaten plant, you can dig it up, bring it into like a greenhouse or an area away from the slugs. It may well recover and you can plant it back out again. One of the most important things if you're planting out bedding plants in a hanging basket is to think about watering, because they do dry out more easily. If you can water them regularly, then that's all well and good, but if you find watering regularly difficult, then you might want to think about something like water retaining gel to help retain some water in the basket and stop it drying out. But the other thing that's quite important, both in relation to bedding plants and plants generally, is in June we start to need to deadhead plants. And it's a bit of a chore, but I suppose it's a bit of a zen chore really. You can just walk around the garden deadheading, relax a bit. And the reason we deadhead is that what a plant wants to do is produce flowers and seeds, and when it's done that, it's fulfilled its task and it will stop flowering. So in order to keep it flowering, we take off the spent flowers, stop the seed forming, and it produces more and more flowers. And that's true of a lot of plants and bedding plants in the garden. So I've got here viola, and I've kept this so that we could have a look at it, and you can see here there's several flowers that have gone over. So what we need to do is snip them off and take them all off. Just have a quick look. There's another one there that's nearly done. There's one there that's done. And that will keep the plant flowering, and that we do that for lots of the plants that we get in the garden. And I'll cut in a couple of images of poppies, where sometimes it's quite difficult to tell what's the seed head and what's the flower head. So you do need to look quite carefully, and we'll also take a look at deadheading rhododendrons, because they can look quite messy and brown, unsightly blooms fading on the shrubs. And if you want, if that's how you like your garden, you can deadhead them, and we'll have a look at how to do that because they require particular attention. But most of the perennials coming up in the gardens, the geraniums and all the multi-stemmed flowers, can be deadheaded and they will prolong flowering. And that's particularly true of sweet peas. The more you deadhead and pick sweet peas, the more blooms you will get. Deadheading is a job for all of the summer, and it will keep the plants flowering for longer. So it's a really important tip to keep your garden looking really pretty throughout the summer.